Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Pentagon leaders came under fire Tuesday for quietly reorganizing part of the Defense Department's policy office without notifying Congress. Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis is here with more. Anastasia, great to have you.
Hi, Terry.
What exactly is the issue here? What did the Pentagon change?
So Austin Dummer, who was nominated to be Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy, Plans, and Capabilities, was testifying in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee on Tuesday. This is one of the most consequential policy roles in the Pentagon, but the lawmakers were not aware until last weekend that his title had changed. Dummer's previous title was Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy, Plans, and Forces. According to Senator Jack Reed, he's the top Democrat on the committee, the department said that this is just a cosmetic change, that his responsibilities and duties are the same. But from the limited information that has been provided to Congress, it looks like it's not just a wording change. The department, for instance, realigned portfolios of 3 deputy assistant secretaries who report to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Strategy, Plans, and Capabilities, and that's the position Dummer would fill if he's confirmed. Responsibility for AUKUS, for example, which is a trilateral security partnership between the UK, the US, and Australia, used to fall under the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Force Development and Emerging Capabilities, but looks like oversight of AUKUS will shift to another Assistant Secretary of Defense's office, and that would take it out of Dummer's portfolio if he's confirmed. And according to a memo provided to Congress, the changes were finalized on October 8th. Here's Senator Jack Reed.
Normally, when the department conducts such a reorganization, it will send to the committee a summary of those changes for our review and consideration before the committee proceeds with the nomination. This is important because the Senate has a constitutional duty to advise and consent on all Senate-confirmed nominees. As such, having a basic understanding of a nominee's duties is imperative to our oversight role. Unfortunately, that did not happen in this case. Rather, we were informed this weekend that these changes had been made, and they were designed to, quote, realign certain policy activities and rebrand parts of the organization to better reflect the priorities of the Trump administration.
Anastasia, in the course of the hearing, did Congress did the Senate committee members seem to be satisfied with the explanation for this reorganization?
Not really, especially given that Dummer said that title change is just simply wording change and that his responsibilities and duties are the same, but it doesn't appear to be the case.
And as the conversation went on, it turns out this isn't the only change that the Pentagon's made, right? What other sorts of information has DOD been maybe less than transparent about with Congress?
Republican Senator Roger Wicker, he's the chair of the committee, said that the office hasn't been consulting with the committee on the national defense strategy or on the global posture review. The lawmakers were also kept in the dark about the decision to scale back military presence in Europe and pause some assistance to Ukraine. Wicker said he has noticed that the Pentagon has at times pursued policies that do not align with President Trump directives, and it's a point and distinction that Wicker always makes when expressing criticism about the administration and the decisions made within the administration, that President Trump sets the right course, he has good and right ideas, but it's someone else in the administration that is not executing it properly. But broadly, this highlights a growing divide when it comes to foreign policy between kind of traditional defense hawks within the GOP and those who have voiced skepticism about U.S. military presence and commitment in places like Europe, including Elbridge Colby, who leads the policy shop. He has advocated for years, for a very long time, for the department to scale back its presence in the Middle East or Europe and focus its resources on the Indo-PACOM region. Here's Wicker.
I've noticed an unsettling trend this year. At times, the Pentagon officials have pursued policies that are not in accord with President Trump's orders or seem uncoordinated within the administration. We saw one example of this last week in the decision to withdraw an infantry brigade combat team from Romania. We noted that this decision did not appear to reflect the policy mandate of President Trump. Just 2 weeks ago, the president had said that troops would not be withdrawn from Europe. It is unclear to me how the move fits with the commander-in-chief's direction. The department is allegedly conducting a broad review of U.S. forces stationed abroad. I say allegedly because the department has not formally conveyed to this committee that it is actually undertaking such a review. We read about it in the newspapers.
And here's Republican Senator Dan Sullivan.
I mean, the President of the United States is incredibly responsive. Pete Hegseth is incredibly responsive. You know who the hardest guy to get a hold of in the Trump administration is? The Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. I hope he's watching. I'm meeting with him tomorrow. Maybe he'll cancel on me. I don't know. He came to this committee and said, hey, I'm going to work with the Congress. He hasn't on big issues.
Those are some pretty specific critiques there. How did Mr. Dahmer respond to all of that?
When it comes to his title, he told lawmakers that it's his understanding that the position's responsibilities remain unchanged. It's a wording change. But when he was asked why there were so many controversies coming out of the policy shop and not from other offices within the department, he said there is a lot of fake news out there and that there is a lot of inaccurate reporting.
So what does all of this display of conflict say about how the Pentagon and Congress are getting along more broadly?
Yeah, the hearing revealed months of private growing frustration among Republicans over being kept in the dark and excluded from major policy decisions. This is also happening as many lawmakers have expressed concern regarding the Pentagon's legally questionable campaign against what they allege the drug traffickers from Venezuela. On top of that, there is also a memo from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth issued recently, and the memo bars all DoD personnel from communicating with Congress unless it's approved and cleared by the department's Office of Legislative Affairs. So we have some reports this week about a list of restricted topics that need prior approval, and that would include maritime activities in the Southcom, including counter-narcotics operations, the national defense strategy, acquisition reform, budget and reconciliation spending plans, the electromagnetic spectrum, critical minerals, and AUKUS.
Anastasia, you follow this super closely. What do you see as the potential resolution for this? Is Congress going to get more engaged in oversight? Is the Pentagon going to be more defensive? How do you think they get to a better understanding?
Congress will probably write a lot more strong-worded letters, and we'll see how this gets resolved. But given the memo that Hegseth recently issued, I don't see how it's going to improve.
That's Federal News Network's Anastasia Obis. Anastasia, thanks for the story.
Thank you, Terry.
You can find her full story at federalnewsnetwork.com.